What's up, everybody? You're listening to Delayed Reaction. I'm your host, Lilo, and this is the movie review podcast that I decided to do as a means to explore creative outlets because drawing is hard and I don't know. I like to sit, and watching movies also tends to help really fulfill and promote that entire sitting culture where I can just, plop myself down in front of the TV and 4 hours later have accomplished something. I watched a cool movie sometimes. Which brings me to today's episode. Continuing in my binge. I'm not really binging it, but it's kind of my run through the Alien series as kind of a lead up to Alien Romulus. Like I heard really good things about Alien Romulus, so I figured, hey, let's also catch up on the rest of the Alien movies. So this one we're going to be talking about Prometheus. And before I dive too much deeper, consider this your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Prometheus, I suggest you go do so, lest ye have the ending ruined. So go ahead and pause it here. We'll come back and then we'll continue on with the story. Okay, y'all back? All right, let's get into it. Prometheus. This movie was released in 2012 and directed by Ridley Scott, the original director of the original Alien movie. The wild thing about this one right off the bat is that it stars a lot of big names. Michael Fassbender, Idris Elba, Charlize Theron. I'm going to mispronounce the crap out of this lady's name. Noomi Rapace? I'm really kind of going phonetically there. Please check me in the comments if I did that incorrectly. And the one that I was kind of shocked at first was Benedict Wong, who starred in this movie 4 years prior to becoming Wong in Doctor Strange, who I absolutely adore Wong. But this movie was wild. It felt like a bait and switch because like you don't realize that it's an alien movie until the absolute end of the movie. The only reason why I knew this was an Alien movie was one, released in 2012, and two, it was listed on Hulu as part of the Alien collection. So I had to just kind of go with what I had in terms of context clues. So this essentially sits as a prequel to the Alien movies. And I think from the timelines that I've seen, this one takes place roughly 100 something years prior to the events of Alien, where we meet Wayland of Weyland-Yutani, who funds a scientific expedition where scientist Noomi Rapace, aka Dr. Shaw, and her boyfriend Charlie Holloway make some interesting cave painting discoveries that all point to a similar super tall giant being pointing to a very specific constellation, which they interpret as being an invitation to find these aliens in outer space, which is a really, really wild conclusion to jump to when all you're going off of is prehistoric cave drawings. Trip goes off, they all fly out, they all are in cryo sleep, which, having seen the previous Alien movies, I would have thought something horrible would have happened because that's just what cryo sleep does in Alien movies. But thankfully, nothing happens aside from being introduced to David, played by Michael Fassbender, who is the synthetic humanoid in this particular movie. Develops a really odd relationship involuntarily with Dr. Shaw, because while she's in cryosleep, he is very creepily absorbing her dreams and memories. Like, bro, what? They land on a planet, make the discovery of an alien race, which they have named the engineers, who they believe to be the creators of humanity. They go down along with a couple of other scientists, a biologist and a geologist on top of Dr. Shaw and Dr. Holloway, make some really wild discoveries about the engineers, discover the beginnings of the alien species that we get to see in later alien movies, or earlier alien movies, I should say. Shenanigans happen, people get killed. The absolute thickest being, thickest with like four C's, comes to life, starts destroying people because that's what these movies do. Like there's just no respect for humanity. Yeah, and then it ends with a lead-in to the sequel. Okay, so this isn't like there's no more, maybe there's gonna be a sequel. I don't think so. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. It's absolutely there will be a sequel to this movie. So, things that I found and kind of like key points of this movie as I was watching it. One, I had to go back and investigate the timeline because wasn't exactly sure where this fit in. Like I said, it was a bait and switch at the beginning. I couldn't tell how far in, before Alien this took place. There was a lot more Earth in this one than there were in previous ones. There's an entire sequence at the beginning that's all scenes from Earth, plus Dr. Shaw and Dr. Holloway finding the cave drawings in Scotland on the Isle of Skye, as opposed to Alien Resurrection, which had just like a brief glimpse of Earth in the port window, and that was about it. So the thing that I kind of was bummed about was the removal of the retrofuturism. So this one takes place timeline or canonically 100 something years before Alien. And because this is a newer movie made in 2012, there's new movie magic involved. So they have cool holograms and like cool new tech, and things are like shiny and new and bright and white and clean, as opposed to the previous four Alien movies where everything is like really grungy, really dirty, big, chunky, pretty analog, zero holograms. So that was that's always a little funny to me, doing a prequel with new magic. And then this goes back to the synthetic humanoids being just odd ducks. I'm this is like the world where Asimov's laws of robotics do not apply, right? Like they don't care about people. They don't want to do good by people. They don't want to protect people. They are really just there driving for whatever their prime directive is. And in this case, it's weird because I think David's prime directive was to kill Wayland. Because there's a line in there where David talks about, like, isn't everyone's goal to kill their parents or something crazy like that? And you're just like, I'm sorry, did that get programmed into you? Did you just make that up because you've flown in a ship across the galaxy for who knows how long while everyone else was in cryosleep? So that was weird because then from that point, right, like David takes this really unsettling turn, and Michael Fassbender does a really great job of being just completely stoic as he does just some of the most heinous things. Like, there's a scene where he takes some of what can only be described as like a bacteria or like the beginning fluids of alien life. I don't even know what to describe it as, but it's like this black fluid. He takes some and slips it into the drink of Charles Holloway. Um, but it's not even like a subtle placement of this goop into his drink. He literally has it on his finger and he bloop drops his whole pointer finger into the drink and then hands it to him. Like, yeah, okay, granted, Dr. Holloway was a little drunk at the time, but honestly, you can't be so drunk that you didn't notice him jamming his entire finger into your drink. Like, that, yeah, I've got some problems with that one. The other, so, and this one made me literally laugh out loud, right? Because Alien as a whole is kind of built around this concept of having really strong female leads, like Sigourney Weaver, being just I've said it before, just completely incredible in the first four Alien movies. Even Winona Ryder, to some degree, was like a really strong female lead. And then in this one, you've got Charlize Theron, who is just stone cold, right? And then you've got Dr. Shah, Numi Rapace, who is a pretty strong female lead, knows exactly what she wants, is willing to do and well, actually no, let me take that back. She's actually very pragmatic about how she goes about trying to locate these aliens and like how to study them. Takes a very scientific approach to the whole thing, which is great. Like great, strong, smart women. During the movie, she gets impregnated with an alien fetus, and on their spacecraft, I forgot what the name of it is, there is this thing called the polymed pod. It's essentially a giant automated surgical device that you put a person in, it does its surgery, no problem. Robert's your father's brother, they're healed. She runs into this thing and she accesses it, and it's like, what is your emergency? She says, I need a cesarean. And the pod goes, I can only do male anatomy. Like, what? You're telling me in the far-flung future of Prometheus, there is such short-sightedness of equipping the ship that you only have a medical pod that can handle dudes, knowing again that there are 3 women on this flight, right? Not to mention like the other side people that don't get mentioned or have zero screen time, but there are other people that are attending to Wayland in the background. But there are 3 women. There should be some procedure built into this med pod that can handle female anatomy. Like, that was the biggest middle finger to like any female character development I've ever seen in a movie. And like, it wasn't just like a middle finger, it was also like problem ex machina. Like, as if there wasn't enough happening already in this movie. It builds on 2 things, right? So it builds on the whole concept of religion from Alien Cubed to Alien Resurrection. Kind of like Alien Resurrection kind of like dances on it or dances around it a little bit with the whole chapel scene. Alien Cubed has like this entire cult of dudes all taking up religion. This one takes religion and is like, let's kind of pivot that a little bit, where it's like this lady, Dr. Shaw, has these very strong religious beliefs. However, we're going to have her meet quote unquote God in the engineers. It runs that whole thing of like, what is actually religion? And it kind of brings up these thoughts of like, what does, who is God actually? Is it an all powerful being, or is it this race of ultra thick aliens that not only created us, but were also going to destroy us, right? Like, that was the other big reveal in the movie, is that the engineers were actually going back to Earth to destroy humanity. So I think overall, the movie for me, I think sits at a 3 out of 5. It's just kind of meh. It tries to paint a lot of the lore back into the story, which is fine, right? I don't mind a good prequel to a movie as long as it does something for the story. That's fine. This one doesn't really do a whole lot more than just kind of give credence to what was going on and why the aliens are so dangerous. Oh, I did forget to mention the other thing that I wanted to bring up. So Prometheus also expands on the idea of aliens being parasitic, in that it takes on characteristics of the host. So in this one, you see it happen pretty quickly, where at the end, the very strange giant face hugger attaches itself to the thick engineer, and the engineer produces what has now looks like the alien that we're familiar with, right? So it takes on the characteristics of the engineer, where it's like really powerful, bipedal, has a mouth with teeth and a face, as opposed to just like a starfish kind of mouth in the middle situation. And then that's all we're left with. So it'll be up to whatever the sequel produces to try and resolve that. So yeah, so 3 out of 5 overall. It's okay. Watch it if you want to. I'd love to know your thoughts on Prometheus. Was it good? Was it bad? Do you think it was a necessary movie? Do you think Ridley Scott might have missed the plot of his own original movie? Let me know in the comments. Happy to discuss it there. As always, thanks so much for listening, and until next time.